Really good. Here we go. Can you please suggest how I can let go of my ego while living in the world outside? Yes. Just leave your ego here and you go outside without any ego. Easy. So, ego, me go, he goes, she go, we all go somewhere over. It's nice when you realize what this ego is. A lot of it, who do you think you are? And a lot of times it's all what other people say we are. So it's my ego. There was that time when I already mentioned I'd like doing some hard work, and I was helping the monks with the concrete pour and mixing concrete, shoveling it in the wheelbarrows, pushing it along. It was really good fun. But, when you're playing around with cement and concrete, you get it all over your robes and your face as well and everywhere else. So that I was really dirty working on that building site. And then as I was going to my room, I came across paths with a visitor. And this visitor was from Sri Lanka, and she was very high caste because she was wearing an expensive sari and many bangles. And you probably heard the story. I honestly thought when I heard her coming from a distance, I thought the ice cream truck had come. But she came up to me and said, I'm looking for the monk Ajahn Brahm. And thinking quickly, I said, well, if you go down to the dining room over there, just a point where we have our lunch, he'd probably be there in about 10 or 15 minutes. Oh, thank you very much. And so she went down there. I had a shower and changed my robes, put a clean set on, and I went to talk to her. And was talking, about 5, 10, 15, 20 minutes about Buddhism, meditation, and the monastery. He said, oh, wonderful. And she said, you're a very well-known monk in Sri Lanka, and you lived up to your reputation. This is a beautiful monastery, except for one thing. She said, on the way here, I met one of your monks. She didn't know who it was. And she said, oh, really? What was wrong? Oh, well, he was really dirty, with his robes all dirty and splashed and splodges of grey cement on his face. He said, that's not really inspiring. It's not really appropriate. You should tell your monks to be a bit more presentable. I said, oh, really? Oh, that's a good point. I said, I'll talk to that monk later. Oh, very good. Thank you. Bye-bye. And I actually did that. It was really good fun. She never realized it was me. So that was really good. So that is actually, who are you? Am I the builder? Or what am I? You can play different roles at different times. And that's when you have fun. You don't have to wear, sometimes I thought that way, maybe just, to get a bit of peace and quiet. Sometimes you can actually wear a wig and a false beard. So I can go overseas, no one knows who I am. But just whatever people want to make of you. So anyway, so your ego, one of the nice things about the ego and just letting it go, you get much more fun when you don't have to live up to other people's expectations of you. Because that's what the ego is. They think, oh, you're a very wise monk. Tell me something wise. No. And that's very wise, to be able to say no. Okay, say something compassionate. Get out of here. It is compassionate for me. They didn't say compassionate to who. So we have lots of fun sometimes. I prefer having fun than showing off or whatever. And that means that one thing about sort of the idea of an ego, always thinking you're higher than other people or better than anybody else. But you also got the inverse ego, which you sometimes find in life. I'm hopeless. You know, I've been a monk for all this time and I still haven't got jhanas. I am just hopeless. I don't know why Ajahn Brahm bothers with me. So, whatever it is, but that's another form of ego. And this is what impressed me, the 3 conceits taught by the Buddha. First of all, I am better than other people. And we all know that's not true. No one. So, but we know that's an ego. You find it when people, they think they're better and always have to prove it. When you make a mistake, that wasn't me, I was not in my right mood today, it was somebody else's fault. Yeah, it was you. So admit it, it's much more fun. And so, when we think we're better than everybody else, but the other form of ego, we think we're worse than other people. That's also called ego. Measuring, judging ourselves, thinking we're worse. And that is amazingly common these days. We always think that we're the worst, or we're not as good as other people. At the end of this retreat, I bet other people got enlightened during this retreat, but not me. I see some of these people, they sit here all the time, and all I ever do when I sit here is fall asleep, or think sort of psychopathic thoughts of what I'm going to do. Sometimes. And you think, but no, in the interviews, that you all think psychopathic thoughts. You're all the same. So first of all, we think we're worse. And actually the last one was also the third of the conceits. We're all the same. No, you're not. So to think we're better, worse, or the same are the 3 conceits. You can't measure the ego. What are you measuring anyway? Are you measuring, they have these 5 components of existence, bodies, which is the best body? Yeah, sometimes it's very attractive when you're young. When you get older, it gets worse, you get fat, you just lose your the smooth skin, you get all wrinkled and blotchy. And so that's what happens as you get older, it's nature. So it can't be my body is better than other people. Well, what about your experience, your perceptions, your will, your consciousnesses? Well, what's better, what's worse? None of it. It's not, you can't judge it. So because of that, we don't judge people. We're just people, that's all. So no one's better, no one's worse, no one's the same. And let you into, so when you leave this monastery or this retreat, just enjoy yourself. If you're a fool, tell everyone else about it. If you make a mistake, let people know. It's good fun. Then you're embarrassed. I heard this when I was a school teacher. It's part of very quick training to be a school teacher in front of a class of teenagers. And they said, if you do something wrong, something embarrassing, and you make a mistake, and all the children in front of you are laughing, then you laugh as well. Then the world never laughs at you, it only laughs with you. Totally different. So never be embarrassed. Instead, you make a mistake, and then you laugh with others. Everyone makes mistakes. I remember just sitting in my hut one afternoon, just watching the trees grow, and a kangaroo hopped past, and as he hopped past, he fell over. I'd never seen that before. He's hopping and just bang. And he got up, he looked at me, and you could read his mind so easy. The kangaroo looked at me and said, "You didn't see that, did you?" He was ashamed. So when kangaroos make mistakes. So that's why you make mistakes, just laugh at. That means you don't have to worry about an ego. And just... I was talking this morning about enlightenment. Was that the day before or something? Anyway, enlightenment. How, in the time of the Buddha, how did people go up to the Buddha until they were enlightened? You know what they did? It's a very beautiful little story that Ananda, the attender, was sitting next to the Buddha, and a monk came up to the Buddha and asked the question, if you're enlightened, you never think you're better than anybody else, nor worse than anybody else, nor the same as anybody else. I said, yeah, correct. And he bowed and left. And another monk came up and said the same. If you are enlightened, you never think you're better than anybody else, or worse than anybody else, or the same as everybody else. Yeah, correct. And then the Buddha turned around to Ananda. That was two new arahats, new fully enlightened beings. That's how fully enlightened beings let me know that they have become fully enlightened. Not better than anybody else, not worse than anybody else, not the same. Just not there anymore. Interesting. Anyway, there are now a lot of problems that happen in everyday life to our relationships with friends and family. Happen these days? They always were like that. Life doesn't change. When an issue happens, I find myself unable to meditate because the thoughts, emotions keep arising at the end of the day when I sit down. What should I do? Because every moment to watch the breath is like suppressing the problems underneath. They will eventually come back and stir up the mind. How to develop right view? So when you're working, at work, how much do they pay you an hour there? Do they pay you to worry when you get home? No, that's your time. If you take your problems home from work, you should charge your company extra hours. Penalty rates, especially if it's on the weekend. So say, nope, I'll finish my work now it's for my family. And when you have problems with your family, it's not your family. At least you can choose which company you work for, but you don't choose your family. You get born and, oh, crikey, that's my mum and dad. It's not like you can go to a shop first of all and choose your mum and dad, like a parent shop. And I'll have this one, or, that one. She's not very nice. No, I won't have that one. And your brothers and sisters, you're stuck with them. So, you can divorce a partner, but your brothers and sisters, you're stuck with. So, what do? Yeah, there's issues happening, but you learn how to, everyday life, you learn how to deal with those relationship issues in a beautiful way. Okay, here's one of my stories. I always tell stories and end up not answering all the questions, but that's life. Relationships. Just before I came here, I told this story. There was a husband and wife, and they just recently got married, and they were walking in the park one sunny spring afternoon, and as they were walking in the path, they heard a sound. Quack, quack. Quack, quack. And she said, oh, darling, could you hear that? That's a chicken. He said, what? It's a chicken. Quack, quack. He said, it's a chicken. He said, it's not a chicken, it's a duck. He said, nope, I'm sure that was a chicken. It can't be. It's a duck. Quack, quack, it went again. There you go, it's a duck. Duck, okay? Duck, you got it? I said, no, I'm sure it was a chicken. It was a duck. D-U-C-K, duck. And she started to cry. It was a chicken. And he looked her in the eyes, and he remembered why he married her. So he squeezed her hand very gently and said, I think you may be right. No, that was a chicken. And it went quack, quack again. Yeah, it was a chicken. And she said, thank you, darling. And they had this wonderful walk in the afternoon, and she made him a really delicious dinner that evening. Because what does it matter whether it's a chicken or a duck? That's the trouble with relationships. They don't realise how to live a relationship. Because it doesn't. All the arguments over chickens and ducks, which is the right Theravada or Mahayana or Vajrayana, it's all chicken and duck stuff to me. Labour or Conservative or Communist or I don't know, chicken and duck stuff. So, no, that's serious, Ajahn Bob, come on. That's the trouble. What's more important? Living in harmony and peace and love, or being right? What's more important? Of course, in that, the relationships, being in harmony, being in love, respecting one another is far more important than being right. And number two, how many times have you thought you were right and it turns out you were wrong? I already told one instance of that, the hammer story I told the other day. I told the story, didn't I? Was that, yeah. Because I tell, talking to people at lunchtime at Bodhinyana Monastery last night over at Dharmaloka Centre. But I make mistakes. So just because it goes quack quack does not mean it has to be a duck. And ever since I told that story, yes, people have found out from internet there is at least one chicken who actually goes quack quack, because it was orphaned and it was adopted by this mother duck. It was a chicken, okay? And because it was adopted, it was hanging out with all the other little ducklings, even though it was a chickenling. What a chick, okay. Chicklet. I don't know, what do you call it? Chickpea? A little baby chicken, whatever it was. And because it was hanging out with other little ducklings, it went quack quack. That's what it learned. And actually, showed me the article, from some internet site, the little chicken who goes quack quack. So that could have been it, okay? Just because it goes quack quack does not mean it's a duck. It could have been a cow who was adopted by a duck. Okay. But anyway, so that is where we have relationships, and the harmony, the peace is more important than being right. And of course, most of the things we argue over is small stuff. So in a relationship, know your priorities. What's really important. And the other thing with relationships today, one of the reasons why we have problems is because it's, being right is praised and is it is encouraged in our upbringing and being schools. You're right, and you get a prize. And you work together with your friends, and it's called cheating, and you get punished. There was something really, really wrong there. When I was growing up doing exams, I was competing with my friends. And that didn't seem right to me. These are my friends. Can I help him? He doesn't know the answer. I do, so can I help him? That's compassion, that's kindness. I saw it in different ways in other people. And in life, we have to work together. But in schools, it always encourages competition. In real life, we have to work together. But because we learn competition and get encouraged and praised, rewarded for being the most competitive, that's why in offices, it's backbiting, office politics, trying to get ahead. And that's not really good for the company, for the business. In marriages, we don't know how to work together, but we know how to compete. So there's something wrong there. And so I wanted to change the system very easily. When you are in school, why don't we, like in the class to which we belong, why don't we give, say, 60-70% marks, your personal score, and then the other 30 or 40% of your eventual score averaged over the class to which you belong. So if the whole class does well, then you do well. 30 or 40% of your final score is averaged over the class to which you belong. So you're rewarded for helping one another out, instead of rewarded for always competing. Number one, it'll make the education system far more true to real life and what this world needs, instead of just being so egocentric, competitive, trying for you to get on, not realizing you can't get on without others. And in a family, we actually reward how to cooperate rather than compete. Anyway, the novice monk said yesterday that the Buddhism is on decline. Which one was that? Buddhism is expanding, and so am I. In some places, but every now and again, if you do the right thing, and if you're a monk and are a good monk, if you're a nun and a good nun, people get really inspired. And it's the real thing. And that's why you can go to Dharmasara Nuns Monastery. They're on decline. There's no room to live there. There's waiting lists, the same as our place, waiting lists, trying to get in. Even this place, is meditation on decline? How hard was it to get into this joint? You have to go on a waiting list, do some very hard praying to divine intervention to get in this place. So anyway, it is. But there's a general turning away from organized religion, from what we call like faith. That's disappearing. And a lot of time it's because, you have all these scandals come up. And that is where you believe in your guru, in your teacher, over much. So they say, no, I am wise. I can do whatever I want to you. And that's just teaching you how to let go. And unfortunately, you know what happens, to be honest, that some of these teachers or gurus or even priests put in authority, and they just take advantage. They take advantage of women and also men, sexually and other ways. And they think that, I'm beyond all of this. But you're not. Sometimes, please, when you come to temples, whoever the guru, the monk, the nun, the teacher is, don't leave your brain outside. Please bring it in. So there's something which is obviously wrong. And you should know that and say it straight away. So that's why, even for the monastic communities, that we do have a child abuse, sexual harassment policies. And you guess who wrote them? No ego. So in other words, you've got to be proactive here to protect people. Because, you can't just think, I'm holy, therefore I can do whatever I want to you. That's ridiculous. And sometimes, if you're compassionate and kind, of course you don't abuse other people. I can never get my head around that. Compassion, kindness, love. You don't take advantage of people. It's usually the other way around. You take advantage of me. But I like that. So anyway, it's on decline. And also sometimes the traditional Buddhism is on decline because people do these things, they don't know what they're doing it for. Like, even, why do people, just put incense on the shrine? Especially, have you seen this in like Chinese tradition? They take some incense and they shake it and they put it in the shrine. Why do they do that? Because in the Thai tradition, we never do that. We just plonk it in. So why do this? And I asked people, they don't know why they do that for. So I started thinking about this, and I got it one day when I saw something which I think many of you know, traditional Buddhists, that when you first go to the temple, you usually take into the temple by your grandma, who shows you what to do. So, daughters, sons, they always be taken into the temple by their grandma. And the grandma shows, this is how you do, this is how you bow, this is how you put the incense into the bowl. And of course, grandma is very old, so grandma has actually got Parkinson's. And that's what she does. And of course, the kids, they haven't got Parkinson's, don't know what, so they do it the same. And that's where it comes from. And there you get a whole tradition. And what do you do it for? I don't know. And you know, for Sri Lanka, that many of your Sri Lankan traditions, you see this, the oil lamp, which you light on all big occasions with a big rooster on top. And I asked many people, what does that rooster signify? I don't know. So I decided, because I'm well regarded in Sri Lanka, you went to breakfast with the former former president of Sri Lanka, Rajapaksa. And I thought, well, he's a president of Sri Lanka, he should know. And I asked him, he was lighting the oil lamp because it was a ceremony. He said, what does that rooster signify? I said, I don't know. They do it, but they don't know what it's there for. People gave me some ideas, but anyway. Dear Ajahn, thank you so very much. How much? Interesting little thing I learned from Ajahn Chah. I've told one or two of you. If myself or anybody else here has helped you, and if you say, oh, thank you very much, here's an offer of appreciation for what I've done for you, don't do that. Because that means the gift stops right there. You paid it back. Thank you. Instead, what Ajahn Chah told me, if I help you, he told me, and if I really sort of assist you, don't show your gratitude by thanking me or whatever. He said, show your gratitude by helping somebody else. And if you help somebody else, and then ask them, don't give me back anything, but you are now in debt to me. So if I've helped anyone here, you're in debt to me. And the only way you can pay off that debt is helping somebody else. And when you've helped somebody else and they say thank you back, say, no, don't say thank you back. Now you're obliged to go and help someone else. So the service goes on and on and on. If I give you something and you give me something back in return, it's a transaction, it's finished. It goes on and on and on. That's very beautiful. So if I've helped you, you go and help somebody else. Dear Ajahn, if a married person becomes a monastic, can they still maintain contact to care for their family? Answer is yes. And the extreme case, which will show how far it can be done, there was a monk, I sat next to him for many years in Wat Pah Pong, and his mother, who lived just outside of Toronto, got really, really, really sick. She's about to die. So he asked permission, can he go over to look after his mum? And what happened was that as soon as he came, his mother started to improve. And so he stayed, and we said, look, I've got to keep my rules. I've got no money. I can't use money, or touch money, but I can sort of cook for my mum. So this brother, who's really busy working, set up an account at the grocery shop, and so this monk would go there and get the food for his mother, cook it, look after her, and just do all that sort of stuff, thinking it's only going to be for a couple of months before my mother dies. And it ended up being about 15 years. And that's what he was doing for 15 years, looking after his mum. And every now and again he'd just go to the temple, a bit of respite. And it was a wonderful thing which he did. And the Theravada monks and all the monks said, okay, fair enough, this is really important to look after your mother. And so, he did that. And eventually his mother passed away. And no one ever looked down upon him and say, you're just cooking for other people, that's not what a monk should do. You're living in the same apartment with your mum, that's not a right thing. No, it's a beautiful thing to do. Some of the rules were, relax a little bit, but just out of necessity, because looking after your parents is regarded to be a very, very important thing to do. So it's wonderful that happened, so good on him. And that was actually the extreme of it. And of course, most times, if your mother needs something, you go over there and help out a little bit. I used to, when I went to visit my mum in London, I used to just do some decorating, just painting this and fixing that, because, I could do those things. And it was just some way of doing some sort of service for my mum. Anyway, is there any chance of healing within the Theravada forest tradition, now that some time has passed since the nun's ordination? This healing, because what happened, I stood my ground and we ordained these nuns, and some people didn't like that. Anyway, Ajahn has always taken nuns to Ajahn Chah's commemoration this year. Are they fully ordained nuns? I don't think so. I don't think there are fully ordained nuns in Amawati. Anyway, is there any other support we can give as grateful lay people for your courageous action? I think a medal. They can't call it the Victoria Cross. What can we call it? The Buddhist cross. No, of course we don't get cross in Buddhism. No, of course not. The main thing is that, sometimes people get upset, they misunderstand. So even if somebody hurts you, this was a saying, yeah. This was a little poem, because they threw me out of the monastery where I grew up. It's not really excommunication, because you can't do that in Buddhism. It's more like an expulsion, like being expelled from school. So somebody sent me this beautiful poem. They drew a circle which shut me out. Heretic, troublemaker, someone to flout. But wisdom and kindness had kindness and forgiveness had the wisdom to win. I drew a bigger circle which pulled them in, which I thought was very nice. So that's what you do. Someone upsets you, you get upset, you get a small circle, and your enemies are on the outside. So what do? You don't fight your enemies, you expand your circle, which includes your enemies. You bring them in. So that's how I would do it. Just be kind to everybody. So people think they're doing the right thing, that they've got the reasons for what they're doing, but just after a while, everybody has their own reasons, but again, the harmony is more important. Is it a chicken or is it a duck? Are they real bhikkhunis? Are they not allowed to be bhikkhunis? Quack, quack. Forget that. And just live in harmony and peace together. Bhikkhuni is fine. So since there is no self, and our will, mental formation is a product of brainwashing messages, current and karma, good or bad, originated, what makes we choose one message over another message? What controls our choice? Our words, our actions, our choice, our life? Thank you. Just good luck. I said good luck. Just chance. Who knows? No, what happens in our life is that we do have some good karma to be able to meet some good people, get some good messages, and it's also the good karma to be reborn at a good time. But there was something about Professor Libet's experiments which was also very cool. He said, yes, that once a readiness potential appears in the human brain, then sort of the signal that what you take to be will actually is just part of the process, not the beginning of the process. So he said, you don't sort of decide, to flex your wrist, but once you have that mindfulness of what you assume to be the will, it's already happening. But he said, what you can do through experiments is say stop. You can say no. So he said, in very beautiful English, there is no such thing as free will, but there is free won't. In other words, you can restrain, you can stop, you can say no. that does seem to be, according to him, sort of something which can be chosen to say no. So where does that come from? And again, that just kicks the can back down the road. Again, still from conditioning. Because why do people decide to do this or that? Why do they say no? And look, Buddhism is very clear with the senses non-self. But it's this whole process of the human being. And because we assume, we make that connection that we feel this thing called will, which you're very used to, and you feel this thing called result, and you think you chose that. I was telling someone earlier today about advertising. I was a young man. I was in Cambridge at the time. Scholarships, theoretical physics. Just really sort of a hard subject to get into to begin with. And I watched the TV one evening. This was in the 60s, and there was an advertisement for St. Bruno tobacco. This is one of which I remember. And this was the days before we knew that smoking, even tobacco, was bad for your health. But like tobacco which you put in a pipe, that was really cool. That was show that you're an intellectual. Because Albert Einstein would have one of those all the time, and other professors would have a pipe, and it was a sort of thing which was really cool. And also, this St. Bruno tobacco, the advertisement was this ordinary-looking guy was walking down the street, and he put the St. Bruno tobacco in the pipe, and he lit it. And as he walked past a shop, a newsagent shop, this drop-dead gorgeous blonde smelt the aroma of St. Bruno tobacco, and she was intoxicated. And she jumped over the counter and followed this guy, waiting to do his every whim. And then they went past this greengrocer selling apples and potatoes, and another beautiful red-haired girl. She just also was intoxicated and followed him. And then after about 2 minutes, this incredible, beautiful line of supermodels was following this guy, because St. Bruno tobacco is enchanting, irresistible to the opposite gender. This was in the 60s, okay. And I was a guy. I wasn't a monk yet, 18 or 19. I thought, wow, this is a good way to get a nice pretty girl. Well, it's stupid, isn't it? I mean, who would believe in that? It's just total claptrap. But you know the story. I got some of that tobacco. I lit it. And you know what happened when I walked down the street in Cambridge? There were no beautiful girls in the shop anyway. They wouldn't be working in a greengrocer's shop. And the only thing which followed me, and it's absolutely true, the only thing which followed me was a dog. That was not in the advertising. I got totally sucked in, and I thought I was intelligent. Yeah, sure. So that really, those sorts of things start to really, ask questions. Who's in control of this? It's one of the reasons why that, because, that I've got responsibilities and care. That, please associate with good people. If any of your children get into trouble, sometimes it's associated with bad people. We influence one another. So now I'm giving that influence to please, let them come to a monastery or good people, and that influences them to become good people themselves. So just the way that we influence one another. Anyway, after 9 days, I perfected the Ananda method of meditation. That's mostly what I did due to ill health. But today, not expecting anything during Ananda meditation, I was swallowed by a bright white light and never felt such peace and joy, contentment in my whole life. I was at a place where I felt bliss, and there was no me or identity, no sense of space or time. I did not want to leave, but because of what I came out. Is it jhana? I don't know if it's jhana. It's pretty good. So what you should have done is just stayed in there and come through the keyhole. That's the only thing. I haven't got a keyhole there. No, just through the door here or something. Oh no, even through the air conditioner vent. There we go. This big cool thing, and then you emerge. Now that would be very cool. If you could do that, then yeah, I'd confirm that's Ajahn. And a few other things. Look, we don't need to measure it. It's just beautiful. It's good, great. The most important thing is, that you're swallowed by bright white light, and it could have been. If it was a jhana, then you would not be able to hear or feel the body, because those five senses would have just been subdued. And you can't even think in the jhanas. You're just very still, very peaceful, blissed out. So those are the couple of things which you can check out afterwards. Could I feel the body? Could I hear sounds? Could I think? And thinking means actually saying stuff to yourself, giving orders. This is the jhana. Should I come out now? What's this? All that stuff doesn't happen. You're perfectly silent. Anyway, it's good stuff. Great, wonderful, well done. See, the Ananda method works. So all of you coming in here, I'm going to have to sit all night. I'm going to sit for hours. So why did it work? Because you let go. Thank you for this wonderful retreat. Could you please tell us the story of BSWA celebrate its 30th birthday? Oh, that's psychic power stuff. Wow, so many questions. I have real psychic powers to get rid of this. Very quickly, 30th anniversary. We were, that's right, I was the head of this joint at that time, and so somebody said, why, the 30th anniversary, Buddhism in West Australia, why don't we do something to celebrate? And I had this idea, just a small little gathering somewhere. And I said, no, Ajahn Chah, if you're going to do something, give it everything you've got. Go for broke. So, it was Wesak, it was a Sunday, and we decided to see if we could hire the Supreme Court Gardens, the centre of Perth, in front of everybody. That was the place to do ceremonies. And I thought, I'd probably be booked out already, but it wasn't. It was free. So we booked it. And this was just the start. We decided to go for broke. We had this beautiful gold Buddha statue over from Thailand. It's now, where is that? It's in the Dharma Hall at Dhammaloka. And I got to know the Premier, Jeff Gallup, and he came along, and we said, we're going to just really go for it. Expense, forget about the expense. Once in a 30 years chance, let's go for it. And of course, I was always busy organising stuff. Everything was just going really, really well until the morning. This was Wesak in May. It's usually pretty nice then. It was raining. You got up and it was raining. And we checked the weather forecast. This was just the beginning. An extreme weather event was coming to Perth. A huge storm. And it was going right for the centre of Perth, and it would hit Perth, I think at 7 o'clock p.m., exactly the time when we were going to start our ceremony. And so, I got up there early, we all got up there early in the morning, and those monks there, they worked so hard, getting soaked. I was soaked. All these, some of these people here who sort of, bring this food to you, they were all soaked. Even like Eddie today, who was here, he was there, really soaked to the skin, helping out. And we had the tents erected, and just 3 times the Premier's office called, and somebody gave me the phone and said, there's a big storm coming, so I expect you to cancel. You're cancelling, aren't you? I said, no way. And about a couple of hours later, you cancelling? No. Are you cancelling? No. And they thought I was crazy. I didn't mind that. There was this gentleman who was a sailor all his life in the merchant navy, and he took me aside. He said, Ajahn Brahm, look, I looked at the barometer. The pressure is falling. This was my life. This is a storm. Now, if I was on the ship at the time, I would look for some haven, some refuge. This is a big storm. It's coming our way. There's no way you can do this ceremony. You've got to stop. No. And that's where's Kanchana? She's around here somewhere. She's gone. Oh, she's there. Oh, there you are. It was your husband when he was a monk. He pulled me aside. He said, Ajahn Brahm, you're embarrassing us. He said, you have to stop and cancel. It's not going to happen. It's raining. Yeah, I respect you. You know, you're my teacher. But have some common sense. Or something like that. He wanted me to stop it. You know, he's told you that story many times. And I said, no way. So we just carried on, prepared everything. And I remember the moment when it was, Cherry's not here, Shirley Jackson, that was Cherry's mum. She passed away some years ago. She came along, and I was helping in the tent, and she came, Ajahn Brahm, you've got to come outside now, got to come outside. And I thought, what else could go wrong? I thought there was some accident, some got electrocuted or something. Oh, crikey. And then I came outside, and then she pointed up to the sky, and I saw it wasn't the raindrops on her cheek, she was crying. The clouds had parted. And the full moon was there, right in the sky, about 15 minutes before the ceremony started or something. And she was crying. It's a miracle. And the premier came, and Thai ambassador. I always remember we got a Channel 30, it was only a community channel, because the other ones didn't think we could do it. And they had a reporter and a cameraman, and she was kept on going around, this is weird. This is weird. I remember that, what she said. And we did the ceremony. And it was a beautiful ceremony under the full moon of Wesak. And there was it was a shower, but the shower was just like holy water. It was just about 1 minute and just very light, and that was it. We did all the ceremony, including the premier. We circumambulated the shrine, said goodbye, everything, finished up the ceremony, and as soon as we finished up, wham, all the water came down. And that field was flooded, the freeway was flooded the following morning, but we did it. And the following morning, I didn't find out until this afterwards, because you know what happens? That for those people about emotions, it was just such hard work doing that. We had to clear up, getting soaked to the skin, taking the Buddha statue back, into the temple. And that was where, it was just slippery, and I was working hard, and that sort of Buddha statue fell, and it almost crushed Eddie. Eddie was underneath it, who came today. But we managed to stop it and say, you okay? I said, no, I'm fine. No injuries at all. Something like supernatural was happening. You can ask Eddie if next time you see him, the Buddha statue falling on him, nothing happened. Weird. But anyway, the following morning, I was doing another Wesak ceremony, the Buddhist Society of Victoria in Melbourne. And so that night, only about 3 or 4 hours sleep, just because you're exhausted, and then go to the airport, get to the airport, checked in, and then got my ticket and just sat in the corner, and I cried. I wept. It's the first time you could think, what happened? You were so busy doing stuff, cleaning things up, looking after everybody, and just getting so exhausted, sleeping, getting to the airport in time. That was amazing what happened. And I was right in the middle of it. We did something which was impossible, really impossible. And, there's many of our monks, people like Ajahn Brahmali, he said, never believed in psychic powers and miracles and stuff. He said, that one, yeah, I give you that one, Ajahn Brahm. Thank you so much. And that was an amazing event. And what happened afterwards, the organisation which hired out the tents and all the other equipment, the lights and stuff, they sent an email and they said, can you please, we don't know who this Ajahn Brahm is, but can you please ask him on our behalf who's winning the horse racing tomorrow? I got that email somewhere. It was really funny because they were really impressed. It worked. And there's sometimes when you're doing things which are really good for other people and for something important, sometimes there is magic. I say, as a theoretical physicist, okay, there is some weird stuff which I've seen in this world, and that was one of them. Anyway, monks in stories, because the emotion was really good anyway, just the piti sukha, the joy, it's wonderful. It wasn't so sadness. Trouble was actually, that was when the Thai ambassador caught me. She was also going back to another, and she saw me and said, Ajahn Brahm, what are you crying for? And she understood, it's piti sukha, comes up. Amazing. Monks in stories always give very complicated instructions that are easily misunderstood. Thinking of the treasure hunt you told about this morning. Thank you so much for being different. Your instructions passed the pub test. Now it's up to us to put them into practice. That's an Australian thing. When they say ordinary people, state-of-the-art people don't know anything about Buddhism, would they understand and be impressed? Yeah, that's good. What are the indicators that what I'm seeing is actually a nimitta, not unconsciously opening my eyes? That is one of the indicators, is you open your eyes, where's the source of the light? Where is this coming from? There are no flashlights. You can't see headlights in this room. So it must be true. And if you still doubt, get one of the eye shades, put it on there, and if the light comes when you've got the eye shades on, you can open your eyes, but you've got shades on. It must be true. If Vedana is experience and the will drives the 5 hindrances, meditation is not picking up experience with the will along with not picking up its perceptions. His emotion, is this correct? It's a bit too complicated for me. I'm just a simple monk who teaches stuff which can pass a pub test. The pub joke. Anicca, the anicca, dukkha, anatta, impermanent, suffering, non-self, the 3 characteristics. Anicca, dukkha, anatta walk into a pub. Jokes have to start like that. Anicca, dukkha, anatta walk into a pub. And dukkha says, this pub is terrible. Anicca says, don't worry, it will pass. And anatta said, who said that? Who said that? That's a Buddhist joke. Anyway. Where am I going with this? Okay. Vedana is experience and the will drives the 5 hindrances. Meditation is not picking up experience with the will. Not picking up, it's not driving it with the will. Not steering it, not piloting it. Instead we just let this experience be. And it means the experience, because it's not moving, it's not being driven, it gets very slow. And because it gets slow and still, it disappears. And when it disappears, you go underneath the experience, when this external stuff of your body disappears, and you find the will. Or you find actually the mind. Similarly is like an emperor. An emperor only comes into public when the emperor is wearing 5 pieces of clothing. Boots, which go right up to the thighs, trousers, which cover the top of the boots and go way up to the waist, a jacket which overlaps the trousers with a high neck and go down to the wrists, gloves which overlap the sleeves of the jacket, and a big helmet which covers the top of the jacket. So every inch, every bit of the emperor's body is covered with the 5 pieces of clothing: the boots, the trousers, the jacket, the gloves, and the helmet. So no one knows who the emperor is, whether it's a man or a woman, whether it's Asian or Australian or English or American with a funny hairdo, or whether it is old or young. All they know is that emperor is extremely powerful. So how do you know what the emperor is? The only way to know is to take off all the the coverings and see what the emperor is inside. Take all the clothes off. And in that simile, it's not the best simile, but it's all I've got. The 5 pieces of clothing represent your 5 senses: sight, hearing, smell, taste, physical touch. And the emperor is the mind. To find out what that mind is, you take off all those other 5 things. So you just got the mind, nothing but the mind, the 6th sense, you can understand what it is. And that was based on a simile, it's not nowhere near it, but the Buddha's simile of finding the nature of gold. You have to purify it from all the other impurities, all the other elements, so you've got 100% true gold. And then as a chemist, you can do your experiments on it. It's just gold, nothing but gold, pure gold. So to find pure mind, nothing but mind, nothing but the 6th sense, and then to understand how it works. So that was a simile then. So that's actually how we find it out. The job of the meditation is to purify the 6th sense from the other 5 senses, and also to have such strength of mind when the hindrances are gone that you can actually examine it and see what's really there. What is the most profound insight you had? A, during this retreat, in all your time as a monk. The most during this retreat was that little saying that irresponsibility is not my problem, somebody else's problem. In other words, don't take responsibility for everything. Because irresponsible is someone else's problem, isn't it? Called passing the buck. Oh, I thought it was good. Anyway, maybe it's not. Anyway, there we go. And in all your time as a monk, sometimes a profound insights are just, what Ajahn was saying about the understanding of the sitting under the mango tree, sitting perfectly still, and then the mangoes fall with your hand open. Simple things. Little things like, how do you get the water to be still? Putting it down. Those are the ones which are really profound. So simple, but they lead to deep, deep insight. Ajahn Brahm, if there's no will, did I choose to come to this retreat? No, you didn't. Nor did you choose to write this question. You had no choice but to write this question. And I had no choice but to write that answer. So don't criticize me, it's not me. Dear Ajahn Brahm, I feel utterly discombobulated. Excellent. I had a cry this afternoon, overwhelmed by how much I want or not. I am at farthest side of the stick with a carrot, signed donkey. So whoever's a donkey, just let go, be content, this is good enough. So remember, even Ananda felt so discombobulated, he felt hopeless, and so what did he do? Let go. There is another person, she is not here, but she is one of, this nun story, but she was on one of my retreats some time ago in a foreign country, a 9-day retreat, really working hard, very smart lady, and she was getting nowhere in her meditation, absolutely nowhere. And she was really trying hard, giving everything she got, didn't work for her. So we finished the retreat, and she had another hour before her taxi would come to take her to the airport. She said, what happened? I've got nothing to do. Your bag's already packed, just waiting for the taxi. So she went into the hall to meditate, to kill time. That's what she told me. I just went there to kill time. And then, just before the taxi came, I think I was having a cup of tea or something, she came to me and she was on the floor and said, Ajahn Brahm, I did it, it was so wonderful, Something like that. It's just so sweet. It'd be great to have that on YouTube, but it's a long time ago now. I said, exactly. Look, you've been trying all the retreat, and now you just don't expect anything. You let go, killing time, just seeing what happened, and now look what happened. You've been chasing the donkey for a long time. Or not chasing the dog, chasing the carrot, you donkey. And now you let go, you stopped, and the carrot came right into you. So it's really nice when those things happen. So, another method of meditation, just give up. And sometimes I tell this to people and said, it's the last night of the retreat, look, be honest with yourself. Be realistic. If you haven't got anything yet, you're not going to get it. So give up. Waste of time. And you know what happens then? People don't believe me, so I say, but if you really believe me, you're hopeless, you're not going to get anything, then you've got a good chance. It might happen. Dear Ajahn, can the peaceometer be used to abandon annihilationism in the form of trying to destroy present states, gain others, peace limiters? Yeah, it does, because that's a good question. Because the peaceometer, you're looking around, what makes you peaceful, what makes you agitated? Trying to get enlightened, trying to get jhanas, trying to get nimittas, bang, that goes right up to the top of the scale. You're really getting agitated. But when you say, this is good enough, I'm just a stupid person, I'm never going to get this. You have to be born sort of as a male to become enlightened. What? You can't say that, Ajahn Brahm. I'm going to show you, Ajahn Brahm. Great, come on. That motivates you. Of course, you can't have tattoos and become enlightened. Of course you can. So people think all these things, I can't do it. Of course you can. So sometimes you say that to let people give up, hopeless. I can't do it. Maybe in my next life. Maybe all I can do is just to help clean up this place. And then just maybe I'm making some good karma there somewhere. I'm really hopeless. I'm a lost cause. So you just sit down there and it's just too early to go to bed. You sit down there, bang, wham, the lights come, bang, then off you go. They're the people who get enlightened. And there's a lot of truth in that. It's not a joke. You try, and you don't get anywhere. And sometimes you think you're letting go, but you're actually trying. Letting go. Come on, let go. I'm not going to chase that carrot. Why is it not coming to me? That's not letting go. Anyway, what is your opinion on the Ajahn story, the story of how human beings originated on Earth? Do you believe the Buddha gave such a teaching? I wasn't there at the time. Some of it makes sense. Also, is it true that the Buddha has said the Earth was flat? No, I don't think so, because he said all these world systems. One of the things his stories there was of the first astronaut. Who was the first man in space? No. Sorry? At least that's a little bit better. It was actually a Russian, but don't tell that to Donald Trump. He would call that fake news, because it was an American. But anyway, that was fake news too. The first person in space was a monk called Rohitasa. The first monkonaut. Not cosmonaut, not astronaut, but monkonaut. Because this fellow, he was a good meditator. He started to levitate, and he was just really Olympic standard levitator. Because one day he wanted to find out where this universe ends. So he went out into space and described some of it to places where the moon and the sun shine no light. That's actually pretty cool, to go to dark places beyond the light of the sun and the moon. And surprise, surprise, he died on the way. And so when he got reborn, I think it was a Deva, and he went to ask all these people, well, where does the universe end? And they all went up to all his... Okay, I'll tell the little story. It was, he went to this level of heavenly beings, said, no, we don't know, go up to the next level. When you get past up the chain of command. And they went to this place, the retinue of God, Brahma. And they said, we don't know, but, Brahma, the God, will know. And he said, where is he? We don't know where he is. But every now and again, there's a big, bright light, and he emerges out of that bright light. Limiters. Sometimes The Brahma in Buddhist cosmology sometimes, it's in the first jhana, sometimes comes out, and that's just where he goes. So anyway, or he is a neuter, so it's not a she, not a he, it's an it. But anyway, that Brahma, so he will know, or it will know. So then God appears, and this monk said, where does the universe end without remainder? And the God takes him, says to him, I am God, Brahma, the beginning, the end of all things, the knower of everything, omniscient, blah, blah, blah. I said, that's not what I asked you. I said, no, where does this universe? And he repeated, I am God, the firstborn, or whatever. Again, I didn't say that. I want to know where the universe begins without remainder. And so God takes him by the shoulder, pulls him aside. He said, I don't know. But if these other people find out I don't know something, I'll lose my credibility as God, he said. And so he said, and anyway, monk, you're stupid. There's a Buddha down there. He's the one to ask. So he sends him down to see the Buddha, and the Buddha said, monk, sort of the universe ends within this body and mind. Not out there, but in here. That's where you find the Dhamma. In this, they call it fathom-long body and mind. That's where you should be looking instead of travelling into outer space. That was a very beautiful thing. But anyway, that was actually made a lot of sense. Also, the Buddha said the earth was flat. Well, I don't think he said that. In the Mahayana Lotus Sutta, they said the Buddha also taught beings from other planets. What is your view on this? Well, I know there's many, they never said that in the other suttas, but certainly that many people I've been teaching, I think that sometimes they're from other planets. What they say back to me. But anyway, don't you know that men are from Mars and women are from Venus? So that must be what they meant. They taught men. So I know, did you read that book ever? Men are from Mars. And so I'm wondering where gays are from. Lesbians, transgenders. They're not. We're all from planet Earth, for goodness sake. If wrong striving in meditation is destroying our unhappiness, is it better to stop sitting meditation and just care for and value the physical, sensory present, whatever that may be? That's more striving. You're here, so stop striving to go to bed. Just sit here. Just sit here. So just be where you are. So it's not that people are trying to twist the teachings to suit themselves. Striving in meditation is destroying our happiness. It's a striving, not the meditation. So keep on sitting, keep on meditating, but just let go. Dear Ajahn, how significant is the effect of our other 7 factors of the path in supporting our progress letting go towards jhana? They are crucial. Also, is it possible to come to Bodhinyana sometimes and ask for monks for Dhamma clarifications? Yeah, you can also ask the monks for Dharma clarifications, but you know what they'll do? They'll say, I'll go and ask the senior monk. And the senior monk, go and ask the next senior monk. Just like they said to God, trying to answer the Rohitasa's questions. And then eventually you'll come to me, and then I'll say, go and look at the book or look at YouTube. Of course you can come to Bodhinyana to ask questions, the Dhamma clarifications. And the path is actually very important. That's why it's called a path. You start off with right view. It gives you like the map. So at least you know the territory you're supposed to be going to. If you travel without a map, you don't know where you're going. It's very easy to get lost. So you get your map. That's the right view. And then you get the right motivation. What are you doing this for? If it's coming from the wrong motivation, you're becoming a monk for an easy life. Well, forget it. I thought I'd have an easier life. No way. I work harder than many of you do. Once when I was in Singapore at the Buddhist Union, we're having a 100th anniversary or something. This was at Harbour City. And I gave a talk really late into the night. It was about 10 or 11 o'clock. Questions and answers. Somebody came to the microphone and said, Ajahn Brahm, what you say sounds really, really good. But come on, you don't live in the real world. You don't know what it's like to be working in a place like Singapore. And I said to him, I'm not accepting that. I got up at 4 o'clock this morning. This is what I've been doing all day. And I listed all the stuff I've been doing that day. And it's about 9 or 10 o'clock. No rest. Even my lunch. People come up and ask Dharma questions. Just, even you go to the toilet in Singapore airport, you meet the toilet attendant who knows you and asks you meditation questions. That's happened to me. So it's like been working all day. And then I remember going back from Malaysia once, and I got this window seat, and a guy was sitting next to me who wasn't a Buddhist, thank goodness. So I could have a nice quiet flight back to Perth. I was exhausted. And then this lady came on the plane, and she looked at me and said, "Are you Ajahn Brahm?" I said, "Yes. I always really wanted to sort of talk to you about some questions which I had. I was terribly sorry, this guy's in the seat, maybe another time." And you know what she did? She looked at that guy and said, "So, would you mind swapping seats?" And I was using all my psychic powers. Say no, it's not a good idea, no. And he did, the bastard. I should have said that. That's going to be taken out, please. I said, "Oh, come on." And so he swapped seats. Now, I was in the window seat. She was in the aisle seat. I was trapped all the way from Kuala Lumpur to Perth, and she never stopped. Oh, that's what happened to karma. If I'd sort of not worried, then it wouldn't have happened to me. When I tried to control it, it all went wrong. But anyway, so the path is like that. It's just you have the right intention, what you're doing it for, and then from the right intention, making peace, being kind, being gentle, that's where all the good precepts come from. Your right speech, action, livelihood, of course, because you're doing it from kindness, out of gentleness, out of letting go. It's not in it for me. It's just renouncing stuff. And then, of course, from that you get this beautiful right endeavor. Because you're already keeping your precepts, you've always got enough to let go even more. So it's restraint of the senses. This is actually what it says in the gradual training. From your precepts, you'll see that the next stage is the restraint of the senses. That's the job of the sixth, what they call right effort, but I call it right endeavor. Really should call it right restraint, because that fits in with the gradual training. And from the right restraint of the senses, then that you are able to do some satipatthana. And from the satipatthana, if it says in there that if we start off with having restrained the five hindrances, so the hindrances, not the senses. So when you restrain the five hindrances, that's what you do before satipatthana. And then you become so understanding of the nature of the body and the mind, you can calm it down, and then you get into the jhanas. So it does. It's a sequential thing. I don't know if monks do recruitment tours like companies do, but I highly recommend the story of the haunting melody. That's the one in the mountain in the Himalayas. If you do such recruitment. And so sometimes people have written to me. They said, "Where is that monastery? I want to know. I want to visit it." And I said, "I'm not telling you. Maybe when you're a monk. Maybe then you might find out. But does it exist, or is it just a story? It doesn't really matter to me. Just as curiosity. Don't become a monk to find out haunting melodies." Question for nuns. Yesterday they said it's a long wait list for non-Australian New Zealand citizens. How long is that wait list? 12 inches. The list about 12 inches long. You see the piece of paper. That's how long the list is. You want to put it in time, don't you? Anyway, Ajahn Brahm, why is Buddhism in decline in the world? Because all the good monks and nuns are becoming enlightened and then they're leaving. So, we're losing our elite leaders. That's an interesting answer, isn't it? Because, the people in the bottom of Buddhism, just, those people, don't know how to meditate, and they keep getting reborn. So that's why Buddhism gets weakened. To the best, the creme de la creme, go to Nibbana. Now, it's not in decline in the world. I think it's going much stronger. Dear Ajahn, my mum doesn't believe or support my belief and actions of supporting monks and temples because she believes, hold of you like a donkey, that they are mainly corrupt. Monks due to so many bad press of bad monastics. So when she asked me about my action on this, helping, donating and resource, I end up lying to her so that we don't get into an argument. That is bad, isn't it? What is an alternative, skillful way? I don't know if your mum wants you to get married, but you should tell her about all the corrupt husbands and all the bad stories of husbands, and so you should not support husbands, mum. So that means she doesn't make you become she doesn't stop you becoming a nun. Is that a good idea? I don't know, I'll just make it up as I go along. It's getting late anyway. So, there are good monks and good temples, so take her to the good monks and the good temples. They're mainly corrupt. They're not all corrupt monks. They're not all corrupt nuns. You get the bad press because if you say a good story about a monk or a nun, no one reads it. Who's interested in, like today, the headlines, a monk or a nun from Dhammasara got jhana today? Is that newsworthy? No. But a nun was found in the pub today. Betting on the cricket. That'll be in the pub. So, just that's the trouble with. Anyway, that's not true, by the way, was it? Of course not. So that's the trouble. Anyway, so they're not mainly corrupt, the good monks and good nuns. And instead of lying to her, just go and get her to see. Say, Mum, I'm buying you a ticket to Dhammasara Nuns Monastery. So you come and see for yourself. Beautiful nuns. Thanks to the nuns for taking care of us yesterday. You are sweet and inspiring. What about me? No. I do all the... See, that's ego. Conceit. Thanks to Bianca, you are a fantastic woman. Oh, here we go. Thanks, Ajahn, for all the wonderful, inspiring... okay. Very good. When other people get praise, we find joy in it. Honestly, that when people actually say to me that, your monks and nuns, or the monks and nuns you train are really wonderful and they can come back any time, I feel like a mother feels, like a father feels. They're my babies, all of them over there. They're my kids and I'm proud of them. They're my daughters and I'm proud of them too. So that's what sometimes, honestly, it's just not the same as that, but similar, that when you hear people you train, because one of the problems was, which Ajahn Chah said, and this was, really hit me hard, and I always remember this and trying to keep it in mind, that he said just about before he had his stroke, he said he'd built many monasteries, but he hadn't built many monks. That's what he said, and I thought, wow, because he had thousands of monks, or hundreds of monasteries, but he hadn't built many monks. And what did he mean? It's not just building temples, it's that who lives in the temples, and making sure they're well trained, they're inspired, and they do well. Not just the monks and nuns, that you guys and girls as well. You're important too. So, if we build really good meditators, good followers, or whatever you call them, then that is more important than building temples. So that's why you don't have gold and chandeliers all over the place. Because building people is more important than building structures. We do need structures, obviously, but it's the people which is really important. And every now and again, so we send a few of our monks over to the Buddhist Society of Victoria in Newbury, and I was really pleased when they say, yeah, your monks come anytime, thank you so much sending your monks. But other monks, no, don't send them. If they've been trained by Ajahn Brahm, yeah, we'll have them. It's like quality control. We've got a good brand. So that's really good. And it's not just because of the monks, it's because all the good, really good people who support us. You've got our committee members, our admin officer in the back over there, Bianca, the caretakers, all the people who look after this place support it. They're really important. And that's why, it's just we don't build temples as much as we build people. That's amazing. Okay, it says it here. How can I keep in touch with the BSWA to be a volunteer? Yeah, just get into bswa.org and just see how you can help, volunteer. If not here, if you live overseas, there's many other of my franchises, Brahms. Ajahn, do you know if Ajahn Chah ever went on pilgrimage to India? Is this something you would recommend? It's important you go to the 4 holy sites. The Buddha said, where the Buddha lived. It's important you go to those sites. So where did the Buddha hang out? The 4 holy sites are 1st jhana, 2nd jhana, 3rd jhana, and 4th jhana. And that's actually from the Mahahathipadopama Sutta. And this is where you find the Buddha. And this is really freaky, that if you get a 1st jhana, and you're in that 1st jhana, doesn't matter who you are, how old, what gender, what race, at that moment, your experience of the 1st jhana was exactly the same as the Buddha's experience. No different. That was how a Buddha felt. That was where he hung out. 2nd jhana, 3rd jhana, 4th jhana, there are the 4 abidings of a Buddha. So when you experience those states, afterwards when you come out, wow, that was how the Buddha felt. And that just, wow, that blows your mind. Just even saying that, just, you get goosebumps. You don't need to go to India. You go to India and these places, they can be so noisy now. They can be sometimes touristy. But you go to the jhanas and that's where the real Buddhas lived. So it's good to go to those places in India to see, they're real, but actually to be able to go to the 4 holy places without even getting on an aircraft. That is the coolest. Ajahn, have you ever encountered devas while in a jhanic state? No. You don't encounter anything in a jhanic state. You just, unified, your mind blissed out. It's the other places where you experience devas, outside of jhanas, not inside. Ajahn, are heavenly beings rarefied consciousness and mental formations? Depends what type of heavenly beings, the different realms of heavenly beings, but many times the devas appear to you just as ordinary beings, but somehow special. Oh, crikey. Okay. Look, some questions, they're not going to be answered, and don't blame me, just didn't have enough good karma this retreat. Oops, there we go. So anyway, the heavenly beings stories. Already mentioned a couple. Oops. Okay, what's happening here? You see, getting old and tired. See. Anyway, the heavenly being stories. There was a story of this monk. How was it? Ajahn. What's his name? Oh, it comes again in a minute when I got my robe on. Ajahn Chorp, his name was. He spent a few rains retreat in Burma during the Second World War. At the end of the retreat, or just about that time, when the Japanese took over Thailand and the Brits, the English, were still in Burma, then the Thais became the enemies of the British. And even if you were a monk, the British soldiers didn't know too much about Buddhism. So, oops, can you hear me okay? No, that's better. So, the British soldiers thought all Thais could be spies, especially monks. So they actually arrested many monks and treated them very badly. So they told this monk, Ajahn Chorp, that, is that Ajahn Chop? Yeah. That it's best if he left the country, went back to Thailand as soon as possible. But they couldn't go by the main roads because they were all guarded by the British troops. They had to go, through the jungle. And that was a long journey over mountains. And I've been to many of those places on the edges of the mountains. They're really steep mountains, impenetrable. But there are paths which go through there, but no people live in there. Maybe a few hill tribes, but they keep moving around. So it was about a couple of weeks' journey, and so he was in the middle of that journey, hadn't seen a village or anyone to feed him, and he was getting so exhausted, climbing up these big mountains and down again. He started to think that he's not going to make it, that he's going to die, which many people did die on the journey. And so then he started remembering some of the teachings which you read in the sutras about heavenly beings. Some of these heavenly beings, or devas, that sometimes they help, good monks survive. So he had this thought, I'm a good monk, and if there are heavenly beings, may they help me. And he just had that thought, and about 5 minutes later, he rounded a path, in the jungle path, and there was a man standing with they call them tiffin cans of bintos in Thailand. These little trays, 1, 3, 4, 5, held together, which people use to carry food to the fields, or sometimes food to the monks. You know what I'm talking about, the tiffin cans? And just like this, and then another one on top, another one on top, another one, and a big sort of handle which they can hold it. And this monk gentleman was very well dressed. That was one of the first weird things. People in the jungle are not well dressed. They wear rags, because that's all they have. They don't have shops in the middle of the jungle. You don't see a Gucci retail outlet in the jungle. Just rags. And well dressed, and he had this food standing by the side of the road. He hadn't seen any houses or people for days. There's no villages out there. And the Thai tradition, you walk past these, and you don't stop until you're invited. And he was passing by, and the man put his hand up and said, Nimon Krap, which is the Thai word for making invitation. So this monk stopped, he opened his bowl, and this Thai man put hot, delicious food into the monk's bowl. Hot. And it was like Bangkok food. I think I've already mentioned some of the food you can get in the jungles, like monkey hand, potatoes, really dirty, because that's all the food they had. There was really subsistence. They're animals, because they could only hunt, that's all they could do. Vegetables, they weren't in existence over there. So, he received all this food, and it was just so inexplicable. How did this man know, this monk, this was in maybe 1942 or something, how did he know that he was coming? How did he have food spare, city food? Why was he so well dressed? And so the monk, he broke one of the little rules. He said, where are you from? You're not supposed to ask that question, you just give a blessing and you go. But he couldn't help. Where are you from? You know what this person, well-dressed Thai man, said? Nothing. He just pointed. And that was the story which he told. And it became part of the folklore of the forest tradition. So, fast forward maybe another 40 years, and there was a young, scrawny English monk who was walking through central Thailand. And he was not hungry, but he was incredibly thirsty, suffering from a bit of exhaustion and even like dehydration, because he hadn't seen a village, he stayed in a monastery the night before, but he hadn't seen a house or a village or a well or a stream for a long time. It was in the hot season. And as he was walking, getting very tired and very dehydrated, he came to a ridge in the mountains, and he saw, in the valley there was a village, maybe 5 or 6 houses. And he knew from experience that one of those houses, even the remotest of settlements, would always have a general store. And in that general store there would be cigarettes, kerosene, just ordinary equipment for survival, but that also they would always have Pepsi Colas. And so as he was standing on that ridge looking down, he said, even though I am a scientist and I don't believe in these heavenly beings, because you know who this was, don't you? Me. And I said, I don't believe in these heavenly beings, but I remember that story. If there really are devas, heavenly beings, this is your chance to prove yourself. I was a good monk. I kept my precepts and doing the right thing, and now I was just struggling with dehydration, needing some sort of boost to my energy to complete my journey. If there are devas, this is a good time to prove yourself with a Pepsi. So I actually asked for a Pepsi from the devas. And I walked down into the village, and a very good monk, not looking to the left, not looking to the right, like walking meditation. That's how you would walk when you were on this wandering. And I walked right, and I saw the corner of my eye, the general store. I walked right past it. No one stopped me. So it's a myth, heavenly beings. And that's when I heard someone running behind me. Nimon crap! And I turned around, and the reason why I had gone past was because they took time to open the bottle of Pepsi and put a straw in it. Nimon crap, as they offered me a bottle of Pepsi. Now you would think that was a coincidence. I thought, well, that's really weird because I asked for one and this is what I got, and I never asked anybody, just walked past. And then another guy came out with another open bottle of Pepsi. And then a third, a fourth, a fifth, a sixth, a seventh, an eighth, and a ninth. Now I was being in Thailand for 9 years, never happened before. And I sat down on a bench and put these 9 bottles in front of me, remembering that in Thai culture, 9 is the magic number. And like in Chinese culture, it's 8. In Korean, it's 7. We always have our magic numbers. 9 is the magic number in Thailand. And I had 9 bottles there. And I thought, you Davis, you really want to make sure that I understand you exist. So I took some from each bottle and gave the rest, a sip, gave the rest to some kids. So they really appreciated it as well, because you can't take 9 bottles of Pepsi. But I made a determination, and it came up. There are such things as heavenly beings, and to this day I know there are. So, if you are really in need of something, so you can ask the Devas to stop the rain, because you're doing a 30th anniversary celebration or other stuff, and it works. So those are heavenly being stories. But it is now 9:30, and unfortunately these questions didn't have enough good karma. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Very good. Okay, so I apologize for not answering all the questions, but there was quite a few, and it will go on forever. So, and here's the last day for questions, and there's no more interviews. So if you haven't got jhana yet, forget it. Come on, it might work. But also have a nice evening. And tomorrow morning, the ceremony, we do the morning chanting as usual, and I think you do just a debriefing from Bianca, isn't it? And I think usually about 8:15 that we do a little talk. That's where I say about how to take these practices back home with you and what to do, back in the fake world. And also we finish off, we do that, and then have a toilet break and 15 minutes, a bit of meditation, then we do some metta meditation guided, followed by a blessing, and that's when we finish off. Okay, great. So have a good evening. See you tomorrow.